Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Executive Board, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all, but of course especially my dear colleague Michaéla Schippers, her family, colleagues, but of course also her students. Professor Schippers has been appointed as Endowed Professor of Behaviour and Performance Management on behalf of the Erasmus Trust Fund. This afternoon, she will present her inaugural address, where she will reflect on how life goals optimizes performance and happiness. Professor Schippers studied social psychology, work and organizational psychology and sport psychology at the Free University in Amsterdam and obtained her doctorate also from the same university. From 2003 onwards, she is a staff member of the Rotterdam School of Management of our beloved Erasmus University. In 2012, she was appointed as Associate Professor, Leadership and Management, and today she is here in the auditorium for her inaugural lecture as Endowed Professor. The field of behavior and performance management is a broad field, including several main areas of research which are all aimed at enhancing performance in a business context. It covers fields such as organizational behavior and behavioral operations management. Her specific areas of interest are personal and team goal setting as opposed to assigned goals, team functioning, specifically team reflexivity, and diversity as important prerequisites to goal setting. And last but not least, organizational networks and the flow of information through those networks. This academic chair aims to investigate human factors influencing individuals, team and organizational performance, and specifically the role of goal setting. She will, of course, explain today how taking control of one's life will optimize personal performance and happiness. Dear Michaéla, it's my great pleasure to warmly welcome you to our academic community here at Erasmus University. And I have no doubt that you will uphold the Academy's core values: prudence, reliability, verifiability, impartiality, and independence. And now I would like to invite you to present your inaugural address. The floor is yours.
Dear Rector Michaéla of the Erasmus University, dear Deans of Rotterdam School of Management, dear family, friends and colleagues, dear students and other guests. Would you believe me if I told you that listening to your heartbeat helps you read other people's minds? Stress is bad for you, but only if you believe it to be bad. Stress can actually be good for you. A 30-minute intervention can permanently change your beliefs about stress. When I told my students about the research findings on stress, one of them reacted with, "Yeah, right, and if I jump out of the window, it will kill me, unless I believe it won't." Yeah, something like that indeed. I encouraged him to prove me wrong, but preferably some other way, because that would have been a very literal but also lethal way of dropping out of the study. When I started my study in psychology at the Free University of Amsterdam sometime in the last century, I had the idea that it was not too bright and I might not make it. I compensated by working really hard, and my trick was to go to all of the lectures.
Marty Katroser?
Here.
Melanie Harhouse?
Here.
Beatrix Kiddo?
Here.
At the same time, I was also making a career in Taekwondo, a Korean martial art. So lectures were during the daytime and the training was during the evening. So that made for a good combination. I did not have much time for a social life, but I lived at the Newmarkt. It's, for some of you who know that, 5 minutes from the central station in Amsterdam. And when I cycled home from the university, I saw that, especially in the summer, there were a lot of people sitting on terraces, enjoying the sun. And I just rushed past them, biked home, and I thought, you know, where do they find the time to sit on the terraces? I don't have the time, because where the arrow is, that's where I lived, actually. But I had to grab a bite to eat, get my sports bag, get a little bit of rest, and then rush off to the training hall and do a full evening of training. That's what I did for a long time, 7 days a week. The training then, not the lectures, of course. If a friend would invite me for a drink, I would usually have to say no, because I didn't have the time. The whole time I lived at the Newmarkt, I went out for a terrace 3 times, and one time was when I had an injury. In one of the courses during my psychology study, I learned about the marshmallow experiment. You may have heard about it. It's an experiment in 1974. And kids were presented with a little sweet. It was a very basically unethical experiment. They were given a marshmallow and they had to sit straight and wait until the experiment to come back, because then they would get another one. So that would last about 15 minutes and it would look something like that. So at that time, I didn't really make the connection, but follow-up studies, formally studies showed that kids who were able to withstand this temptation would grow up to be very happy adults, or happy teenagers, but also happy adults. They would be able to have a better body mass index, better academic achievement, and other life outcomes. They really managed to postpone immediate gratification, and this turned out to be key in self-regulation. At that time, I didn't really make the connection, but it seems that apparently I was able to do so. And that helped me. But what I noticed is that for my fellow students, it didn't come that naturally at all. They really had to struggle a lot to delay this gratification. But also what studies and follow-up studies and very recent studies have shown, which is really nice, is you're not doomed if you're not able to do this for an unsuccessful life with a big obese body mass index. But you can train this actually. And a recent study in 2006 showed that students who start doing physical exercise started to be able to better in delay of gratification, but also what was also very nice to see is that it kind of went to other areas of life. So they had less stress, less addiction rates, so they smoked less, and they had better health outcomes. So this very small, you can also start physical exercise, but also learning how to manage your finances also helped and kind of had this crossover to all other areas in life. These were very interesting findings, I think. So what if people would learn to self-regulate because they have a compelling purpose in life? Because just self-regulation for the cause of self-regulation is nice, but a purpose in life might be something that kind of relates to the meaning in life. What is the meaning in life? If you don't have a purpose in life, and we know that people who don't have a purpose in life or purpose in life anymore tend to die quicker. So there's an increase in health and longevity across cultures, sexes, and age groups. And even when we control for other things like positive relationships with others and general affect. And interestingly, an altruistic purpose in life, so an other serving purpose in life, has been shown to be having an even greater effect. So you can have a purpose in life that serves your own interests, but if you want to serve the interest of the community or of the world in general, that has been shown to have an even bigger effect. So this is all very nice, but how can it help our students? How does it work for our students? So what we have seen is that students this can also help our students a lot. And problems that our school faced were that there was a 50% dropout rate in our school. And I used to teach behavior in organizations in our school. And that was, I think, until 2011. And I asked program management once, okay, we have now, I used to lecture in this hall, we had 800 to 1,000 students even sometimes. And I said, how many of the students remain until the end of the year? And then they said only half of them. And I was like, this is insane. We have 800 to 1,000 students, and in the end of the year there's only 400 left. I can't believe that it's only a matter of motivation or that they're not capable of doing a study, because they did the right prior education. So what I thought is, it's more likely that they are not very sure about their goals, and once we make sure they have their goals, we might decrease this dropout rate. And also what our school faced was huge differences in performance. Men tend to do less well than women in our school. There's a huge performance gap between those groups. But the bigger performance gap is between ethnic minority students and ethnic majority students. Meaning that there's a lot of room for improvement, at least if you look at it from a positive view. So, as an example for our students and how this might work, imagine that you're asked to go for a beer the day before the exam. The only thing is that, you really want to get your degree. But this is, if you look at it in time, and this is construal level theory, saying, okay, things that are further ahead in time seem more abstract. And a lot of our students write, even in their goal setting, that they want to have a big car at the end of the study if they start working. So they want a big Maserati, or I think this is a Fiat even. But a very nice one though. And if I ask my students what they want to become after they finish their study, 80% of them says that they want to become a consultant. So you're asked to go for a beer the day before the exam. Then this beer sounds and looks really compelling. And then it's really tempting to say yes, right? Especially this beer looks really nice. So this is the short-term versus long-term goal. What if we let students set goals? The idea is that this beer becomes a lot smaller. And the long-term outcomes become a lot bigger. So having your degree and reaching the goal of this big car, or any goal, because really interesting is that it didn't matter what kind of goal the student set, they start doing better in the study. So that's the idea how it works for us. And the idea is also that if you're asked for a beer, you would probably say, yes, I want to go for a beer, but after the exam. So you can still have fun and results. So would you believe me if I told you that People with a purpose in life live longer, have better health outcomes, and even better sex. It sounds really unbelievable, and I see you looking in disbelief at me. So we won't use the window example again. But people with a great sense of purpose are living longer. They did this research even in Japan and in the USA. In Japan, they asked people, do you have an Ikigai, yes or no? People who just said yes to having an Ikigai were found to live longer, and even if you control for lifestyle, for all outcomes you can think of, friends, networks, all kinds of things that also contribute to living longer, even if you control for those, they were shown to live longer. And this was across all ages. It's not just the old people. And the same research was done in the USA, just asking, do you have a purpose in life or do you have a goal in life? Of course, Ikigai is not that well known, although it has been popularized by Dan Buettner, who is a research scientist. And he was really looking for hotspots in the world where where a lot of 100+ people lived. He did a lot of TEDx talks about this and wrote a couple of books about it. But what he basically found, it was not really lifestyle. Well, it contributed, food, networks, all very important. But having a goal in life seemed to be one of the main factors. The thing is that if a pharmaceutical company could really bottle a treatment like this, it would make millions of dollars. But the thing is, you can do it almost for free. And still people don't really do it, as we heard in the forum also today. So goal setting may be very important, and goal setting theory developed by Edwin Locke in the 1960s has now evolved in setting more life goals, and he is very enthusiastic about it, which is really nice, because he developed the theory to begin with. We implemented this goal-setting intervention in 2011 in our school for all of our students, first-year students. What did they have to do? They had to define a dream, and that could be general, anything they can think of. So you can think about, I want to be the president of the Netherlands, I want to become the president of this school, I want to be the mayor of something, anything you can think of. But the only thing is that they might also think about the compatibility of the goals. Because if you also want to become a world champion in Taekwondo, as I aspired in those days, and you also want to have a good social life, that might be a little bit incompatible. So you might want to have set really goals 1 to 6. So that's what we ask our students to do. Okay, define your goals, really 1 to 6. On average, our students wrote 3,000 words. So it's quite a lot, especially for something that is not really obligatory. It is obligatory, but it's something they could also write like 6 words or something. And they would still, well, a little bit more than 6 words, but they would still have to show it, and there was no grade assigned for this. So the intervention consisted of 3 parts. And to give you an example, we also, in the second part, we asked them to really identify obstacles. How do you, what do you do if you can't become a world champion because you are not talented in Taekwondo? Or if you don't have talent for the study maybe, or you fail the exams, under NSN, the nominal is normal, you have to basically make sure you get all the exams. So here's an example of a student that said how he would overcome this obstacle.
A possible obstacle is my laziness. Until now, I've never had to study for school to get an average of 7.3 for my final exams. I used to do about 2.5 hours of homework every week. Only in the week before or during my exams, I would start studying. Now that I'm actually studying at university, I won't make it if I continue like that. I will have to work every day, something that I'm not used to. The only obstacle is that I won't do anything, because I've never done anything.
I think the student really identified a good obstacle, so that's what he got. If we content analyze it, we give him a little bit of points for this. But this is really what a student wrote. It's not that student, basically, but the thing is that he identified the obstacle quite well, but the solution was not that great. Because what we want students to do, basically, is to make a concrete plan. If you want to study more, in this case, or you want to do a little bit more physical exercise, you have to plan it. Put it in your agenda. Make concrete times. So I'm studying every day. Well, if he doesn't do anything, maybe starting 3 hours a day might be a good start. But then he needs to plan it from 10 until 12 or 10 to 1. So this future plan is the second part of the goal-setting exercise. The third part is the I will part. We added that in our school. It was not originally part of the intervention, but it turned out to be a very positive and very public commitment for students. So they have to identify their main statement based on the goal setting they did, and then write it out. But it can be very personal. These statements are very personal. And they are, together with a photo in our school, on display throughout the school. So how does it work? How does it work? We don't know. If I publish, I try to publish from this. These are very nice results. And then reviewers ask me, how exactly does it work? Well, we don't know for each student how it works. Steve gave a great example in the forum about his son that participated in the goal-setting intervention and then completely changed. But what did he change exactly? We cannot follow each student like every day and see exactly what they changed in behavior. They do change, we know that. And if I talk to students, some of them say, I do much more time management now. And I was like, time management for a first-year student, that's really good. I never did any time management when I was a first-year student, at least not, I wasn't really aware of it. So how does it work? Students that participate in the goal-setting intervention show more self-regulation, so delay of gratification and self-regulation. They also show more resilience. So if you encounter a setback, you already made a plan how to overcome this setback. So this is one of the things that are important. And I think, but I haven't tested it yet, but we are working on that with a colleague, Arnold Bakker, who is present in the audience here, from psychology. We are going to work on if it really helps students' engagement and flow. Flow is a term popularized by Csikszentmihalyi, and that's also used in sports a lot. If you have an optimal experience in sports, like you are, for instance, a football player who says, okay, I just saw this ball coming at me and I had to score. There was no possibility to miss it, and time seemed to slow down, and so this is kind of an optimal experience and also an optimal performance. In studying and in playing serious games, for instance, it is that people lose the idea of time. They are so engrossed in the activity that they really don't notice the time anymore, and sometimes forget to eat, sometimes forget to sleep even, for hours at a stretch. So this can be done performing basically any activity. But it's most likely to be achieved if you do an activity that's goal-related and that you really like. We all know about tasks that we delay forever and we really don't like to do. And these kind of tasks are not, then you're not really getting into flow usually. So engagement is characterized by vigor, dedication, and absorption. It's really related to flow. And we know it's also related to academic performance. The big question is, does it really work in terms of study success for our students? So what are the results of the intervention that we implemented? Well, the dropout rates went down by 20%, over 20%. The academic performance went up by 20%, so students earned 20% more credits after we implemented this intervention, so the whole cohort went up. And students reported more stable goals instead of unstable goals. And also increased motivation. But that was not all. The gender gap seemed to close by 98%. So as I said, men did less well in our school than women, but after the intervention, the gender gap was no longer there. The ethnicity gap, which was even bigger, closed by 38%, which seems smaller, but it was, in effect, it was a bigger change. But after the second year, it closed by 93%. So the differences between students disappeared, and that was not because some students started to do less. All of the students started to do better, but some went at a higher rate up. So both gaps were closed by the intervention, although the ethnicity gap, as said, after the second year. So what did students do? What can we tell that students did? Because we didn't really measure all their behavior every day, day to day. We did implement goal diaries after a certain point in time. But what students did was participate more in regular exams. So what we noticed, and that was before NSN was implemented, so nominal is normal, that students had to get all of their ECTS, they participated more in the regular exams as opposed to the resits. So some students used to postpone until the resits, and that enhanced their study success. And this was especially true for students that participated in all parts of the intervention. So what you see here is that participating in all of the parts, as I said, there were 3 parts, so you can, some students didn't participate at all, even though it was part of the program, and some students participated in all of the parts of the intervention, so full participation. And it turned out that was really predictive of study success. Participating in all of the parts, there were 37 credits, they earned 37 credits more. And that was within 1 year, meaning that it's more than half a study year worth of credits. So what we also did, we asked them to fill out a goal diary because we wanted to know, okay, what happens after the intervention? Did they actually get to work on those goals? So we were really mean and we asked them 24 times during the whole year. We gave them a goal diary. We sent that in at 8 o'clock in the evening and had to fill it out before 12. And students were really freaked out by that because they didn't like us to send them something after 8 in the evening, even though it was only a 3-minute questionnaire. And we also told them beforehand that we would send it. It was not a surprise or something. But what we also saw that the extent of participation in those goal diaries was also very predictive of study success. So we saw the same line, and both of these variables were predictive of study success, even if we put them together in one regression analysis. So there is something about participation and doing everything in the study that makes for a lot of study success. So far, a lot of students have participated. So this is the participation in terms of number of students. So 48, almost 5,000 students of our own school have participated, and almost 25,000 have participated from the University of Amsterdam. So when is it important to give this intervention? Can we do that halfway the year? Can we do it at the end of the year? Should we do it halfway the study? What we did, and I think in hindsight we did that kind of intuitively right, we gave it at the beginning of the study. Not right away, because when students get into study, they want to have some other activities first and they have to get used to the study. So in the 3rd week of the study, we gave them the intervention. And they had 2 weeks to finish this first part, then they were given 2 weeks to finish the second part, and another week to get their photo taken and their I will statement. After that, we gave personality questionnaires. And these were sent in 3 points in time throughout the year. So because we wanted to know, is it an effect of the most motivated students, or are conscientious students participating more, and does that explain the effect of goal setting? And of course, as I already said, we had these 24 goal diaries. So it was a really big study, but in terms of time investment of the student, I think it's no more than 7 hours throughout the whole year. So the timing in the intervention turned out to be very important. We should do that at the beginning of the study, because what the intervention basically does, it sets people at the right path. So it's a very, and it's also called a recursive cycle. So instead of going downward, we sent them in an upward cycle. And that persisted throughout the study. And also throughout their study, I mean, not throughout our study. So what we also saw in the forum, we know that it lasts throughout the study. They all even have even higher GPAs at the end of the study. So after the bachelor, they have higher GPAs. And also, we know that students with a higher GPA also have a higher starting salary at the job market. So I think in general, and that's not something that I made up, but that Edwin Locke said, and well, he was very enthusiastic about, he said, you are adding to goal-setting theory here, because goal-setting theory has also always stressed the specificity of goals. You need to set very specific goals, measurable, time-bound, etc. But now we see that, well, even if you set a general life goal, that sets you on a different part of self-regulation, and that helps increase your study success. So you don't have to have very concrete goals to begin with, but you have to make those very big life goals very concrete and very close by. That's basically what happens. Of course, we need to do a little bit more research to substantiate these claims. But as I said, the academic performance of students went up by 20%, and by the way, the worst groups, like ethnic minority male students, they went up by 50%, which is a huge difference. But apart from that, there was also a lot of extra income for our school, and that amounts to about 2 million euros per cohort. How did we calculate this? We wanted to know, okay, we are a business school, so we also want to have some numbers here. What we did is just looked at the tuition fee, the extra tuition fee of students that would otherwise have dropped out. And then in the end, the government also chips in some extra money. And we did this in a very conservative way. We made sure that we also took the dropout rates of the second and the third and the fourth year into account. But after the second year, the dropout rates are really pretty low. And of course, some people that are skeptic about the results ask me always, aren't there any alternative explanation? Is it that you are giving these students more attention? We're not giving them any attention. We just give them a login. Here's the login. You have to do it at home. They find it a very boring exercise, basically. Not all of them, but most of them. Students, at the end of the year, a lot of them don't even remember that they did this intervention, that they participated in this intervention. But then you can also ask, okay, is it only the motivated students that really had better results? Well, all of them had to participate. But even if we controlled for all of these, like conscientiousness, very conscientious people might also, we know that has an effect, and it does have an effect in our analysis. We know that age has an effect, gender and ethnicity, so we controlled for this. We know that registration date, at least in the past, had a big effect. Late subscribers really had a lot of worse results, worse academic outcomes. So the big five: conscientiousness, extroversion, so it's not the big animals in Africa, but personality had an effect. Of course, self-evaluation, so that's the extent to which you think your self-esteem, basically, but also depression, neuroticism. It's a combined personality variable. We know that has usually a negative effect on students' academic outcomes. And need for cognition. Some students just like to think more. And they really like to find out, go to the library and find things out. And we know that has a positive effect as well. We controlled for all of this, and we still find the same effects. Participating in the intervention and the extent of participation is really predictive of study success. We also controlled for other interventions that we had in our school, like nominal is normal, and study choice meetings that we have before students enter our school. And still, goal setting has the biggest effect. So what can we do? In terms of future research, I had the idea that students, if we want to really track what students are doing, we cannot send them a goal diary every day. As I said, they were not too happy with the goal diaries we already sent them. But what if they can download an app on their phone and just that tracks their activities? Of course, there are some ethical concerns to this all first here. What it tracks is, for instance, how much students sleep, how much they go to the gym, how much they talk to other students, not what they are discussing about, but how much. And from the Dartmouth study, we already know that, for instance, visits to the gym halfway the trimester goes down a lot. And because they think they have to work harder on the study and exchange it for less physical activity. So, for instance, what we could also track then is, do they party after the exam more than before? As I said, if you ask for a beer, maybe you say, okay, let's do that after the exam. So the conclusion is that it's really important to have the goal-setting intervention as part of the student curriculum. We made it part of the student curriculum. And at the University of Amsterdam, when I wanted to implement it, they said, well, can we just make it voluntary activity for students? And I said, if you really want to make it a voluntary activity, don't count on me, because then I don't want to put my effort into it, because I think not many students will participate then. My estimate was, out of 1,200 students, only 50 of them would participate if I made it a voluntary activity. And that would be your most motivated students who don't really need it. They can still profit from it, but they don't really need it. And I said, okay, what we will do is we want to make this third part, of course it's not I will, because that's really an RSM thing, but we want to make that third part with a photograph taken, we want to make that voluntary. And I said, okay, fair enough, let's do that. And let's see how many students show up for this part. And guess what? I was wrong about the number of students that showed up. It was only 45 students that showed up for this third part. So if we want to scale this up, then we really need to do something. I think if people are given the choice, it's hard to make this choice. If I give each of you a login and I say, you now heard about these really nice results, it can also help your career if you're not studying. And you are convinced, even if you're convinced about the good results, only 2 of you might do it, actually. Because it's hard to do this activity. If each of you are not asked to do it, but have to do it as part of your work, as part of your study, you won't think about it. You will just say, okay, this is an assignment I need to do, and do it. I think this also works on a bigger scale. If we want to implement this in a school, you have to learn mathematics, you have to learn languages, you have to learn all these kind of things. Why are life skills not part of the study? I'm not sure why. And this is such a small part of the study, it's only 7 hours on a whole academic career. Or at RSM we are going to make this a little bit bigger, but it's still a few hours throughout the whole study. So if we want to give our students so many skills, why not give them a little bit of life skills? I think that might be very important. The intervention is very cost-effective, and that's really why I wonder why not everyone is using it. I've been talking to many, many schools about this. And they approach me, and they have a huge number of students, and I put in a lot of time, like say 20 hours for a school that wants to implement it, and then in the end there's a little obstacle, and they say, no, we are not doing it after all. And then it's almost said and done. They said they would do it in the next academic year, and then there's this little obstacle, and they just quit doing it. But on the bright side, a lot of the politics is picking up on this. So, and goal setting is part of a positive psychology movement where these are really exciting times for science, because we now know what works much better than decades ago. We know that very small positive psychology interventions have huge effects, and we know exactly which ones they are, and we know how to do it, and for which groups of people they are most effective. So, if these small interventions can have such a huge effect, I would say having a life goal is a very basic one to start with. It is a basic human need to have a meaning in life. And I invited Minister Bussemaker. She couldn't make it today. She sent me a letter, luckily, to say that she had other obligations. But she has Equal Opportunities Alliance. And this is a huge movement now in the Netherlands to make sure that a lot of students get equal opportunities, but also to increase study success of students in all kinds of schools and middle schools and universities. And I think it also fits with the mission of our school to be a force for positive change in the world. And basically what I want to say is that I have a dream. I used to think of myself as not a very idealistic person. I thought it's so great if people want to go to Africa, make a difference there. I think it's great, but I always had this nagging voice in myself that said, do they really make a difference? Does it help people? I'm a scientist, I really want to see the evidence first. And now that I found out that this does work, and I'm very convinced that it works, because I did the analysis myself, I think in that sense, I now have found my own Ikigai. I have a dream. I hope that I can help millions of people find their own Ikigai. And at the same time, that could reduce inequalities in society. And I think that will be my personal Ikigai. Of course, I did not do all of this alone. I had a lot of help from a lot of people, and I'm very grateful to them. And I'm going to start to say that in Dutch, because a lot of my family is Dutch and not all of them master English. But I think for the English-speaking people in the audience, the images that we will show will speak for themselves. Aan het eind van mijn oratie wil ik nog graag het dankwoord uitspreken. Het college van bestuur, de vereniging Trustfonds van de Erasmus Universiteit en de decaan van de Rotterdam School of Management, Stefan de Velde, bedank ik voor het in mij gestelde vertrouwen. Ik aanvaard mijn benoeming tot bijzonder hoogleraar met veel plezier en zal mijn uiterste best doen om de mij toevertrouwde leeropdracht zo goed mogelijk uit te voeren. Ik wil mijn scriptiebegeleider van de Vrije Universiteit, Paul van Lange, als eerste bedanken. Tijdens mijn scriptie Bijgeloof en Sport spatte het plezier van het onderzoek doen van onze samenwerking af. We kregen alle grote voetbalclubs uit die tijd zover dat ze meededen. Ajax, PSV, FC Groningen, Heerenveen, Rode JC, die stond toen nog in de top van de Eredivisie. We wilden alleen maar werken met de top van de Eredivisie. Alleen Feyenoord wilde niet meedoen. Inmiddels hebben ze overigens wel het licht gezien sinds Dirk Kuyt goalsetting heeft ingevoerd bij Feyenoord. Nog steeds word ik, en jij vast ook, ieder jaar gebeld door de pers om hier nog eens over te vertellen. Dit was een erg leuk, maar ook spannend begin van mijn academische carrière. Graag wil ik alle voormalige collega's binnen de vakgroep Sociale en Organisatiepsychologie van de Vrije Universiteit bedanken voor de vele wetenschappelijke gesprekken. Dat zijn er te veel om op te noemen. Beste Erik van Hek, jij past de principes van topsport toe op de vakgroep. Hard werken, maar ook weer opladen voor de volgende prestatie. De wetenschap kan zeer veel eisend zijn, maar jij ziet er ook toe dat de mensen in de vakgroep zich niet over de kop werken. Een betere vakgroepsvoorzitter kan onze vakgroep zich niet wensen. Beste collega's van de vakgroep Technology and Operations Management. Een woord van dank voor jullie niet aflatende steun is zeker op zijn plaats. Ik ken weinig vakgroepen waarin het menselijke aspect zo centraal staat en op de voorgrond staat. Dat is zeker mede te danken aan de 3 sectievoorzitters René de Koster, Jan van de Ende en Wolf Ketter. Ik heb verschillende samenwerkingen binnen de vakgroepen van RSM en daarbuiten. Ik werk onder andere samen aan leuke projecten over entrepreneurship met Wilm Hulsink, Andreas Rauch, inmiddels verbonden aan de Universiteit van Groningen. Ook collega's als Pepijn van Herijnen, Michiel Tempelaar. Te veel om op te noemen eigenlijk. Otto Koppius dank ik voor alle gesprekken over sport en management en alles wat daarmee samenhangt. Van de onderzoeksgroep voor goalsetting en studiesucces dank ik Edwin Lok, Dominique Morisano, Ad Schepers, Wil Hofman, Niek Hogevorst, Martin Hoegel, Julia Bakman, Matthias Wijs, Gabor Kismihok, Stefan Mol, Vladimir Kobayashi, Willem Verbeke en Zibin Chen voor de prettige samenwerking. Verder dank ik Murielle Pols voor haar juridisch advies rondom goalsetting en Jade, Frank en Suzanne voor de broodnodige ondersteuning. Ook Corporate Marketing en Communications afdeling wil ik bedanken voor de samenwerking rondom goalsetting en I Will. Ik wil hier dan ook met name Willem Koolhaas, Marianne Schouten, Astrid Huisman en Ramses Singeling bedanken. Ook uiteraard programmamanagement van RSM, onder andere Erik Waarts en Janet van der Woude. De werkgroep Onderzoeksdatabase UR en de daaraan gekoppelde onderzoeksagenda Onderwijs, Kwaliteit en Studiesucces bedank ik voor de prettige samenwerking. Van deze werkgroep wil ik met name Guus Smeets, Gerard Baars en Ivo Arnold bedanken. Ik zie uit naar onze toekomstige samenwerking. Ook een woord van dank voor onze rector magnificus Huib Pols en de onderwijsdirecteuren van de UR voor het meedenken over het onderzoek naar goalsetting en studiesucces. Graag ook een woord van dank aan de groep van onderzoekers met wie ik heb samengewerkt of nog samenwerk. Christina Wessels, net vorige maand gepromoveerd, nogmaals proficiat. Andreas Alexiou, Evgenia Dolgova, Udo Conrad, Corine Steenvat, Kai-Philippe Otte, Suzanne Sassovova, Sander de Leeuw, Bart de Jong, Astrid Homan, Jeremy Dawson, Michael West en Amy Edmondson. Een woord van dank voor Erem is ook zeker op zijn plaats. De onderzoeksschool is zeer professioneel georganiseerd en heeft zeker bijgedragen aan het feit dat ik RSM als geheel ben blijven waarderen, ook in moeilijke tijden. Cheryl, Carmen en Ingrid zijn de kurk waarop deze vakgroep drijft. Heel hartelijk dank voor alle hulp. Van mijn familie en vrienden wil ik met name Wil en Henk bedanken voor hun steun en gastvrijheid in de afgelopen jaren. Ook Adriaan wil ik hierbij niet onvermeld laten. En uiteraard Helene, Esther en Joke, de lieve zussen en schoonzus die me met raad en daad bijstaan. Annette, jij bent de vriendin waar ik altijd op kan bouwen voor een gezellig uitje of om even bij te praten. Lieve Mike, jij bent het allerliefste professortje in de dop. Het volgen hoe jij iedere dag weer iets bijleert en het plezier dat je daarin hebt is mijn grootste inspiratiebron. Maar blijf voortaan wel van mama Scientific American af of de New Scientist, want hij schudt er altijd blaadjes uit. Lieve Ed, dat ik hier sta is tevens het bewijs dat onze relatie veel stormen heeft kunnen doorstaan. De academische wereld is niet altijd even makkelijk, maar jij bent er altijd geweest om op terug te vallen. Zonder jou zou het een stuk moeilijker, maar ook zeker een stuk minder leuk zijn geweest. And finally, I wish that all of you will find your own measure of peace that so many of us seek and so few of us ever find. Ik heb gezegd.